In this video, I'm going to show you why I am giving you the green light to begin your planting across the United States. Join us next at the Weather Farm. Welcome to the Weather Farm. I am giving the green light after we get through the next couple of days to start your planting for this season, and I'm going to tell you why in this video. But as we begin our Thursday, we are seeing widespread warmth from the desert southwest where you're in the 80s and 90s, all the way through the central plains, even stretching up into the northeast. New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, you're approaching 70 degrees. We do have one small area of colder air that is across Wyoming and South Dakota that is associated with a low pressure system that is making its way through that area. It will bring some significant snow to parts of northeastern Wyoming and northwestern South Dakota on our Thursday, but across the prairies of Canada, Alberta into Saskatchewan, you're warm as well, into the 60s. So let's take a look at our surface features. There's that snow across South Dakota on our Thursday morning back into Wyoming. Again, we have a little bit of a dip of a trough here. Just enough cold air is mixing in that rain can mix with some light snow, and that snow will accumulate pretty significantly by the time we get to Thursday morning. Across Nebraska, we're seeing some isolated thunderstorms begin our Thursday. We're going to watch this area from Nebraska down through Texas, not only Thursday, Friday, but into this weekend for a daily chance of some heavy downpours and thunderstorms. We're not talking severe weather. An isolated tornado, though, couldn't be ruled out across this area. Just depends if we get an outflow boundary to set up in conjunction with enough moisture and instability in the atmosphere. A lot of things that could come into play, but there is no organized area of severe weather. And across the southeast, Tennessee down to Alabama to Georgia, you have light rain to begin your Thursday. And by the time we get to our Friday, we're seeing that snow that moved out of the Dakotas. It's now making its way into the UP of Michigan. Wisconsin, you're seeing some light rain showers. We're going to watch the Great Plains in the Ohio Valley Friday for some heavy rain. We're not expecting severe weather. We could see an isolated thunderstorm develop, but again, it's not expected. But for the most part, the entire United States is dry for our Friday. And that continues into Saturday as that system continues to move off to the northeast, making its way into parts of New York and the Northeast with heavy rain. So Saturday plans are going to be a little questionable across the Northeast. And even as we get into Saturday night into Sunday, we're going to be talking about snow for parts of higher elevations of New Hampshire, Vermont, into Maine. Out west, off the coast of California, we have a cutoff low that is making its way onshore. It's bringing rain to Southern California, and across the Sierras, we're seeing those higher elevation snows. It is that area of low pressure that's going to eject out of the Rockies over the weekend and into the Central Plains by Monday that is going to set the stage for our next threat of severe weather. In fact, the Storm Prediction Center has gone ahead and issued a slight risk of severe weather for our Monday, stretching from Minneapolis all the way down through Des Moines, down towards Oklahoma City. Now, this is rare that they've gone ahead and issued it this far in advance, but they do believe, and the confidence is high, that we will see some severe weather in this area. That area moves slightly to the east for our Tuesday. It is now including places like Detroit, down through the Chicagoland area, St. Louis, down to Little Rock, even the Dallas metro area. You are in that slight risk for severe weather on our Tuesday. And what's driving this is going to be the exceptionally warm temperatures that are going to be out ahead of that cutoff low as it makes its way through the Rockies. We're going to see on our Sunday temperatures warming into the mid 80s. As far north, those places that are getting the snow on our Thursday, you're going to be in the 80s by Sunday. Across parts of Texas, it's widespread 90s. Even into the Northeast, we're experiencing 50s and 60s. But we do look up to the north, across parts of the far northern provinces of Saskatchewan and Manitoba, even into far northern Ontario, just south and west of Hudson Bay. Temperatures are going to be held down in the 20s there for our Sunday. That is just the sign that the cold air is still around, but as we move into the month of May, it is losing its steam. And one of the things I do want to talk about as we look and why I think we're getting to a point where we could really start planting in earnest across most of the United States is let's look at this map. This map shows us the temperatures for the month of April compared to where the seasonal norms. The way to read this map is a number of 1 indicates that this is the hottest April on record for your area, whereas a number of 133 indicates that this is the coldest April on record. So we're generally looking across most of the central plains through the Ohio Valley into the Northeast. We're seeing numbers in the 50s, 60s, 70s. So this has been a pretty seasonal April for a wide spread of the country. We really have to go down into southern Texas to see a top 25 warmest April. But look out across the Carolinas into Virginia. That area of the country is experiencing top 10 warmest Aprils on record so far. And a lot of that is going to continue to help get the growing season started in most parts of the United States. And this map here shows us that we've had plenty of moisture. Again, a 1 is the wettest April on record to this point in time. Now we still have another week to go in April, but a 1 indicates the wettest April on record, 133 the driest. So across the Ohio Valley, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, down through Tennessee, 1s and 2s, we've seen record amounts of rainfall and flooding as we began the month of April, and then a couple weekends ago, we saw significant rain across this area. Whereas out across the Central Plains, it's one of the 20 driest Aprils on record. Places like Nebraska, western Kansas, southern South Dakota, into eastern Colorado. You're pretty dry this time of the year. So the rain that we are seeing and the scattered nature of the rainfall that we're going to see Thursday into Friday into Saturday, that's not going to necessarily relieve all of these conditions, but it's going to help give some needed rain that you've been missing out on for most of the month of April. And in fact, as we look forward and we go ahead and we take a look at the temperatures for the month of May, another reason I believe we can go ahead and give that go signal for planting is because the outlook for the month of May gives most of the northern and eastern parts of the United States an equal chance of seeing seasonal temperatures for the month of May. As we get to the desert Southwest across parts of New Mexico, into this Arizona, into California, you have a greater chance of seeing above normal temperature for your month of May. And our precipitation, unfortunately, where we've seen those heavy rains in April, we're going to see those same areas experiencing an above normal chance of seeing above normal precipitation. But good news across the Central Plains, you can get those crops in, you can get those fields planted, and you're going to see about a normal chance, a normal amount of precipitation for the month of May. But out west across Utah, western Colorado, into southwestern Wyoming, you have a great likelihood of seeing below normal precipitation for the month of May. In fact, as we look at our outlook for next week, we're again another indication of why I think that we can go ahead and get planting is most of the country is going to see at normal or above normal temperatures, with the greatest chance of above normal temperatures across the Intermountain West, eastern Montana, the Dakotas, into Wyoming, into northern Utah. Down across Texas, you're going to see a greater than normal chance of below normal temperatures. And our precipitation across the Corn Belt, across those areas where we need to get out into the fields and start planting, we're going to see below normal precipitation as we begin the month of May. Across the South into Texas, you definitely need that rain. We're going to see an above normal chance of precipitation to begin our May. So let's put our next few days into motion here. We're going to see, again, scattered storms and showers across the Central Plains. Any one of these could develop into a brief, heavy downpour. That's going to be the main threat, and that's going to move through the Ohio and Tennessee valleys on our Friday. But as it moves into the Northeast, it's going to interact with a little trough diving down out of Hudson Bay, and that could bring some snow to parts of northern Maine by the time we get to Sunday. In terms of our precipitation, by the time we get to Saturday, we're going to see widespread 1 to 2 inches across the Central Plains, Nebraska, Iowa, down through Texas. A lot of this is going to be dependent upon if you get underneath the right thunderstorm. But in terms of snowfall, as I mentioned, across the Northeast into Ontario and Quebec, we could see some significant snow Saturday into Sunday, accumulating in parts of Quebec 6 to 8 inches of snow. The higher elevations in northern Maine, far northern Maine, could see 3 to 6 inches. Out west, we're going to see snowfall in those higher elevations with that cutoff low across California, in the Sierra Nevadas, and we're going to see snow across the mountain ranges of western Wyoming. And speaking of that snowfall, here's another map that I think is indicative of the type of weather. So when we look at the winter, we tend to look at the snowpack, especially across the Canadian province. This is the snowpack as of our Thursday. We have it in far northern Saskatchewan, across Manitoba, and there's a good swath just south and west of Hudson Bay of snow on the ground. But look, over the next 2 weeks, how much of that snow is going to erode? Hudson Bay is going to be ice free, most likely, and the snow that was on Hudson Bay is going to be completely gone. We could see some snow across those higher elevations of British Columbia. We do expect the northwest to be a little more active to start the month of May, but the snowpack is basically gone. So again, any intrusions of cold air from the northern parts of Canada down into towards the lower 48, they're not going to have that snowpack to maintain. Plus, sun angle this time of the year is much more direct across Northern America. That's going to also allow the air to heat up pretty quickly during the day. So again, I believe that we have the green light to go ahead and start getting our plants, our flowers planted, get those gardens going. And this is a great time to get started this weekend and in the next, especially if you're across the Central Plains into the Ohio Valley. Well, we hope you've enjoyed this video. Check us out again. We probably will have another video tomorrow. It's just been pretty chaotic with my work schedule, so I apologize for missing a couple days of videos, but we'll probably have another video tomorrow, and then I'm going to be gone again this coming weekend, out doing some camping. It's going to be great weather for that. So we'll see you again on tomorrow's video.